Till my daughters and sons, I will always be there for you. No matter what you do, whatever joy or pain that you are going through, I will always be there for you. I will be, I will be, I will be always there for you.
All right, everybody, good morning to you. And of course, welcome back inside a brand new segment here on New Era TT Radio. We're inside the 11 o'clock hour, and it is time that we go on the inside. Of course, this is where we hook up with Steve Williams on a Wednesday. It's always a pleasure to have him, courtesy of the Foundation for Human Development. Steve, good morning to you.
And a very pleasant good morning. All is well.
Well, they say in the land of the living, yes.
Yes, I feel good this morning. I feel blessed that I have been given the opportunity to breathe on this side of the earth, and hopefully breathing some fresh air. And I hope it stays so for a little while. I'm listening to all the issues and the tensions, and I'm saying, Lord, let it stay so for a little while, eh?
Yeah, I was, over the last week, at least it's been probably even a couple months, and I have gained a greater appreciation for life and what it is to be able to get up every day and just be able to move about and breathe, and this life that we take for granted. Um, in July, have a friend that I saw basically from a very healthy individual, come down to nothing, lie on the bed and just eventually passed.
Yes.
I have, someone right now actually going through that same thing again. I'm watching a second person going through that same thing in this particular period, and it has given me a greater and a deeper appreciation of life, because there really comes a time when none of all of these things matter.
You now get it?
Yeah.
Boy, I got that a little while back. Not too long. I took a lot for granted. I don't even take getting up on a morning for granted anymore. I am all in awesome thanksgiving for it, because you're one phone call away from disaster. I
Yeah.
always say that. It could be a diagnosis, it could be somebody telling you somebody has passed, it could be something with your family. You're always just one phone call away. So that when you have a good day, you have to celebrate it in a sense, because you just don't know for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
You really, really don't know. So appreciate the life that you have. Live the
Yeah.
best life that you could, and be the best that you can be. That's all I can say to people.
That's all. That's it. And the rest is up to everybody else. The
Yeah.
rest is up to God. The
Yeah.
rest is up to God.
So what
So
are we about
today,
this morning?
today I am going to talk a little bit about that, but more in terms of power. Um, and when these things come to me, they always come because people come and chat with me and so on. And I say, well, I'm going to chat a little bit about that on the radio program and see what people think. So there's this relationship with this mother and daughter, and the mother is in her 80s and the daughter is late 50s, and they have always had a good relationship, a fairly good one. And the issue is power. I'm going to talk about power in relationships today. Now, the mother always held the power in the relationship. Of course, most parents hold power over their children from the time they're small. But as children begin to mature, get big, that power is released and it sort of equalizes and neutralizes itself. In this case, it did not. The mother retained absolute control power and used various methods that I'm going to talk about today to maintain that kind of power. Now, all things go well until somebody in the power relationship begins to rebel. And the daughter, after about age 50 or so, began to rebel and began to say, well, I'm not doing that. And I'm not doing that for you, and so on. Began all of a sudden to rebel in the relationship. So the mother, who had absolute control and dominance, who used to say, this is what you have to do. I want it done now. You have to do it for me right now. And the daughter, who is a please me person, decided, yes, I'm going to do it because it's my mother and I love my mother and I don't want anything to happen to my mother and my mother and my mother and my mother. But in fact, it was a very dominant kind of relationship in which the mother used and literally abused in many ways the daughter to get what she wanted out of life. And there's so many relationships like that where people have this power and this control and this dominance. So today I want to talk not about giving up the dominance and the power, but the different behaviors and how people in relationships, whether it's partner, husband and wife, mother and daughter, father and son, how some people hold on to that power and actually destroy other people and don't even know that they're doing that. So that sometimes we have to, when we examine relationships, when people come, I always say, who owns the power in the relationship? And there's a silence because some people don't know, but some people know where the real power is in the relationship. And that's something we need to look at even from the perspective of politics, but that's not where I am today. So let's look at some of the behaviors, what I call power over behaviors, the dominant ones that people have, and that's very obvious, but I'll talk about the not obvious ones in a while. So the obvious ones are what we call the power over ones, loud, aggressive, violating. So you're loud, and that's what you do in the relationship. You interrupt and you talk over someone just to shut them down. Yes, you're having a conversation, but no, you start to raise your voice and so on because you're trying to ascertain the power. Now, by the way, people don't just choose to be powerful. They're powerful because they are looking to gain control over what they are going through themselves, which is they're being scared, they're ashamed, they're helpless, they're out of control, they're very vulnerable, they have a lot of wounds of abandonment, neglect, and rejection, and so on. So all these are wounds that you enter into relationships with. And so many times you have to try and hold your own, as they say. I have to hold my own in the relationship. I have to stand up for myself. But it's not so much stand up for yourself as choosing to maintain dominance over a particular person in the relationship. So many times you find the powerful ones, they tend to blame something. They blame you. Why are you raising your voice and so at me? This time they're the ones raising the voice, but they have to put you down so that they can remain on top. They threaten, they intimidate, they corner someone in order to win. And they're very loud and aggressive about it. Now, these people, sometimes I noticed that once I was at work and I had an employer. And he was extremely loud, extremely aggressive. It's the only way he could have maintained control. And he had people trembling and frightened when they go into meetings with him. And poor fella, he was a very insecure guy who knew nothing. But how did he maintain control was that kind of intimidating way, threatening way. And so some people do that in relationships. Some men do that to women. Some women, I've discovered, now do that to men in certain relationships. So that kind of power destroys. It does not help. The communication, it gets destroyed. People don't really want to be in your presence for too long. They tolerate you because you are in a position of authority, and therefore they tolerate you. But they could avoid your presence as much as they can because they can't deal with the dominance and the overpowering that they feel. Then you have the subtle people, what I call it passive ones. You see? Now, these are the people who maintain power through what you would call quiet behaviors. So, you ever hear about the silent treatment? And the silent treatment as a way of punishing is one of the ways that you maintain power. So you say, I have nothing to say to him, absolutely nothing. So and you say you go into silent treatment for days, 3 days, 4 days, and you have nothing to say to your partner. What you're really doing is holding power. Because you have them on the other side wondering and concerned and what if I say this and what she vexed for and what he vexed for and all kinds of issues, and you're disturbing the equilibrium of the other person to a great extent by your silence. And that's how you maintain control. And you always put people in that with your basic silent treatment. Another way of maintaining power is withholding affection and care. And some people do that in relationships. So they withhold the affection. I'm not going to be kind to you. I'm not going to be loving, no sex, whatever the story might be. You are withholding it to maintain your power. If you want this from me, you will toe the line. Behave yourself the way I want you to behave yourself. Do what I want you to do. Powerful. And some people get away with it all the time. But it is a form of power and control. Then you have the dismissive body language. The eye rolls and the smirks and the sarcastic tone, only dropping little statements here and there. Yes, that's how you maintain control because you have to keep the person down. You have to keep the person wondering what I do wrong and how to make up and how to come back. And then some people use a lot of intelligence. They use intelligence, in other words, logic. They try to reason it out. And they behave in such a way that of course they call it gaslighting. They make you think you're the problem. All of a sudden you have an issue. They're wrong. But if you didn't do so and so, I would have been a nice person. I would not have had reason to be vexed because you did that. So all of a sudden now you begin to feel inside of you, but I really did wrong. I should not have done that. And that's how you carry it through a lot of the time. And then you have those who use and because they have a lot of access to YouTube and the internet and so on, and they did a little bit of work listening to people and reading up and so on. They come with it. I call it the therapy way of looking at life. So you discredit the other person by using all your nice therapeutic terms. You say, you seem to be bipolar. And all of a sudden you become a psychiatrist and you're telling your partner that she's bipolar. Or you're telling your partner that she has schizophrenic attitudes and behaviors. And you begin to diagnose your partner, and it's a form of control. You're always out of control. And they use the word always. You never say, well, in this situation, you seem to have lost it. Not at all. You're always out of control. You're always carrying on. So they make sure by using the word always that you become more affected and infected with the language. So you begin to look at yourself as having a problem when you probably don't even have one. And so in those behaviors, those silent behaviors, people have a way, or subtle, maybe a better way of putting it. Those subtle behaviors, they maintain control and dominance in the relationship. And that is what it's all about. Now, that maintaining of dominance and that control in a subtle way, it's all because of your own woundedness. Is because the person feels deeply insecure in more ways than one. And in order not to have this insecurity shown or exposed, you maintain a form of control, a deep form of control. Then we have the other format. Um, you have where you begin to manipulate reality and manipulate the what you call emotions and so on. So you deny, which is what I talked about a little bit just now, you deny the person's reality to make them doubt themselves. That's the gaslighting. So the person thinks, listen, I am sure that I'm okay, and so on. You say, no, last month you were not feeling well, and you were talking about this, and I read that so and so, so and so. I feel that you are having a serious problem with so and so and so and so. All of a sudden, you have a serious problem. You never had a problem before, but they're brilliant. They maintain control, I say, through brilliance. Okay? And that is a way of holding people. Another fantastic way is playing victim. Now, when you playing victim is the sweetest one out, because all of a sudden you're a problem. For example, in the early relationship I was talking about between the mother and the daughter, the mother got sick. And so, of course, when you get sick, you need the attention and the affection and so on of whoever is surrounding your family and so on and so on. But this adult mother, hear what she does. She becomes sick conveniently and always is sick so that she can be a victim and that she can continue to receive attention and affection and so on. Now, nothing's wrong with that. Some of us do that all the time because we want a little bit more, but it begins to become a problem for the person providing the affection and providing the attention and having to give up their job and leave their work every day and come and look after you. And you insisting that you're not well when in fact you are feeling better, but you pretend and you become more and more ill. It's a form of control. It's a form of power. So you pretend that you're more and more ill so that the person can give up whatever they're doing to pay attention to you. So many people do that all the time. And they solicit support from all kinds of doctors and so on. You don't understand. You don't understand what I'm feeling. I'm feeling so this and I'm feeling so nonsense. A lot of it is nonsense. So that a lot of the time you maintain the whole objective is to maintain power. And what this day, and I feel sorry for her because she really wants attention. She calls all the family and she calls those abroad and say, you have no idea what people are doing to me here and how they're treating me and so on. And she goes on and on in order to become and to be a victim, play the victim so that others can give her attention, give her money, whatever the case may be. It's a fantastic way of dealing with life for a lot of people. So that is another form of control and of power. It's all about power. Then you have those on the other end of life, with what I call the entitlement people. There's some people who believe that they are exempt from consequences because they're hurt and they feel ashamed and so on. So some of us don't want to face up to the consequences of our own behaviors. A lot of us don't want to do that because that would mean taking responsibility for yourself. And that word responsibility doesn't come in easily for somebody who is constantly seeking power. Because remember, you're seeking power from a place of powerlessness. And once you're seeking it from a place of powerlessness, it becomes more devastating because you can't stop it, you see. It is almost contagious and you have to keep on going. Therefore, you have an expectation that you have full access to people's time and people's emotion, and you demand it. You demand it. A lot of employers do that with employees. They call you, it's 8 o'clock in the night. 9 o'clock and so on. Don't forget you have to do this, and don't forget you have to get this done, which is no need to, but it's the demonstration of the power and the actual belittling of the employee, so that you can remain in a position of both authority and power, because the two are different sometimes, but that's another discussion. The people who tend to believe that your pain justifies any sort of reaction. And because you are not well, or because you are unemployed, or whatever it is, it means that that gives you a right to behave in a certain way. And I looked at a wonderful, I can't call it a wonderful, I looked at a relationship with a 22-year-old male with two parents, mother and father, who desperately love him a lot. He's not working anywhere. He chooses not to work. He's had several jobs in which he has lost all of them. He made a choice not to work. He's home. He demands an allowance from his parents. They give it to him. He demands that they feed him and they cook for him and so on. They do that. The mother does that. So when she came and she says, I want you to intervene, I said, so why don't you tell him something about it? And she said, well, I tried to tell him and so on. I said, well, it's time he leaves your home. Let him go and get some responsibility on his own. Well, no, we can't do that. We love him. We love him. And I say, you love him? I don't understand. Do you understand the meaning of the word love? I say, he's using you. He's destroying you. He's taking all your money. And yet you're saying that you would not ask him to grow up and be responsible. You want me to intervene, and you are failing to do that. I say, something is not quite right. When you've done that, tell me. Well, he wouldn't leave. If we tell him to leave, he wouldn't leave. I said, well, go to the police. It's your home. Tell the police you need him to leave. Oh, no, we could never do that. I could never put out my child. I love my child. Okay, therefore that ended the discussion. It ended the counseling. So you see what I'm saying? I'm giving an example of how people have a tendency, quietly and subtly and overtly many times, to create positions of power so that they can maintain their irresponsibility, maintain their lifestyle and way of being, so that you, the other person, on the other hand, suffers and suffer. You suffer, and then you find yourself in a position where you're trying to get out of it. So when you are in this position of power and either giving it or receiving the powerlessness that comes from it, you have to work out, in a sense, how you're going to manage. And a lot of people do this. We're looking at the time here. I just want one more, and I want to talk a little bit about moral superiority. And intellectual superiority is a way of dominance and controlling the power. When you are always correcting someone to feel smarter, that some people do that. It's subtle, but it's in a relationship. You deal with your partner, you deal with your friend, you deal with your wife or whatever it is, and you're always correcting them because you have to prove that you're right. And by correcting them always, you're putting them down. All you're doing is maintaining power. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. And some people use the diagnostic labels, as I said. You're narcissistic, you're dysregulated, you are bipolar, and so on. You use all these things. A lot of people use spiritual teachings as well to show that they have the power. People use a lot of biblical quotes. The man is in charge of the house. The man is in charge of his family. I am in charge of the family, and so on. All these are quotes that people use, and they get the biblical references in order to maintain dominance and control. What I'm saying is when the revolution comes, when the people begin to respond, when people begin to fight back, then there is a whole imbalance in the relationship, and then things begin to go badly. And then the divorce comes in and separation comes in and all of that. Because one person said, I no longer wish to be dominated, abused, and controlled in this particular way. So let me pause here and share and ask people if they have experiences of that they wish to share.
All right, so people, yes, we are able to take your calls now. 281-1315 or 299-5156. We are talking with Steve Williams, courtesy of the Foundation for Human Development. And this is a good time for you to get in on the show in the minutes that we have, right? So if you all call and only ask Steve questions, I'll keep him here. If you all don't, well, then I'll have to let him go. Yeah, Steve, how does one take back that power, or to
It is a
bring some
yes.
measure of balance? What do you do?
First thing, and as always with everything, is you have to recognize that you're in a state of being controlled. If you don't recognize it, you cannot take it back. Once you recognize that you're in a state or in a relationship or in a situation of being controlled or dominated over, the first thing you have to do is to not fight back and try to take power all over again, but simply say, you need to have decent conversations with the person. And when you begin the conversation, you have to say, I respect what you're saying, but this is how I feel about this. All of a sudden, you have to begin the I feel. I feel, I know, I believe this is important for me. This is how I would like to do it from now on. You begin using those words and those expressions, which will make the other person angry and will fight to retain the power. The person is not going to give up power because you decide you don't want to be controlled anymore.
Yeah,
Get
nobody
that
wants
clear?
to give up. Nobody wants to give up the power.
Nobody's giving up that power.
Yeah, we have a caller there. Steve, good morning, Junior.
Good morning, Sir Charles. Good morning, Mr. Steve.
Morning.
Yeah, man. Interesting topic, as unusual. So I've been listening, right? I've been listening and I'm hear what you're saying, but all right. We talking about control, right?
Mhm.
Um, So like one of the last things that would have even caught my attention, you say like in the religious and circles where they talk about control where the man is the head of the home,
Mhm.
right? Mr. Steve?
That's
Right.
correct.
But what isn't it that somebody have to be in control? Is it is the issue in being in control or the abuse of the power of control?
It is the abuse. It is not about
Okay,
being in
so
control.
I glad,
And somebody is always
glad
in
you're gonna
control.
clarify that.
And there's
I
always
glad
an
you're
a
gonna I glad that
change
you're
of
gonna
power.
clarify that because that I think that is the that you see that is the issue because even as as parents, right, you would have a level of control over your children,
Must.
right?
Must have.
Even in a relationship, whether we want to talk about a marriage or we want to talk about in a casual sense where two people are in a relationship, you would have one on dominant, but again, is the control of the person being in power, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, like I hear any things that you're saying, and I would think that most people are guilty of one because even in all that you would have said, right? I'm sure if people reflect, if we could find ourselves being guilty in one aspect or the other, right?
Mhm.
So I laugh when you talk about the counseling the person who son when you tell them let the son leave and yeah, now in that particular situation sometimes I hear what I say it's ticklish, right?
Mhm.
Some people, like you find some people, right, want to maintain that a dominance. So you talk about the 80-year-old woman, right,
Yes.
wanting to maintain that dominance. So here what I would ask you now, is it because she will she from a particular era right? Where the parents again bringing the parents would have the say, and you would respect that, because even in this time in life, you're fine. Parents are really listening to and children. Parents and how that much say, because there's a cultural shift, right? So
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, it's a really interesting, it's a really interesting something. And again, let me hear some other remedies. I will always strike a balance, and some other remedy is not just about being dominant, but again the control for dominance, right? Because again, even in the husband and the wife situation, there are certain we husband and wife in the family setting, different person would have different strong points, right?
Mhm.
And so again, so for example, and I will say this example, I will go in the family and setting, if one person could control the finances and better, that person will have a strong hand where, hey, you see the finances, I need to manage it, because and if they don't take a strong hand, right, the family wouldn't enjoy, right, or perceive to enjoy, the financial and benefit, because then you have the other extreme where it have people who do have that control of finances and have the family life in a wreck. And I just use the example, but there's different things. So let me give somebody else a chance. That's one.
Okay, thanks very much, Junior, for your input. Yeah, I think the idea of control and power, people, and we were talking about it just before we entered the call about people giving up power in their space, and power does something to somebody. Not
Oh
not
boy,
everybody can handle it well.
that's
Um,
right.
and if we look and we see even what is playing out in around us,
Mhm.
power in the wrong hands is a very dangerous thing.
Very dangerous, very abusive. And let me just go back a little bit to the daughter and the mother. The way forward for the daughter is about boundaries. Eh? And even in relationships, it's about boundaries. When you establish boundaries, boundaries are really meant to protect yourself. And it means you give yourself a certain amount of privilege to live the way you want to live. So if the daughter establishes a certain amount of boundaries, in other words, she says, "Mom, I love you very much, but I will not be coming during the week. I will not be coming on Tuesday and Thursday because those are heavy days on my workplace." Then that's a boundary. And whether or not the mother likes it, once you begin to establish boundaries, you protect yourself. When the mother can call you, let's suppose she works hard on Tuesday and Wednesday. And when the mother calls you on Tuesday morning and say, you have to come, because I need some medicine, you have to go to the drugstore and get something for me. And you break your own boundary, then in fact, you are allowing the power to abuse you. And that is what I'm saying. So all you have to do is begin the establishment of boundaries, which we must do even in relationships, even with children. You have to establish these boundaries so that people can respect you. When people respect you, then you begin to feel good about yourself. Is the disrespect of you that causes people to break and mash up those boundaries that you would wish to put in place? It's total disrespect. And that mother totally
Yeah,
disrespect the daughter.
yeah, that's it. Steve, that's how we're going to leave it here this morning.
Okay,
Let's
yeah,
tell people how to get
definitely.
onto the foundation. Huh?
Yes, foundation or physical location is in Cascade, 36 Cascade Road, Cascade. And we can be reached via email, which is foundationhd@gmail.com. Or you can WhatsApp us at 4826500.
Okay. But Steve, as always, thank you so much for the conversation. And enjoy your day, enjoy your week, and God's willing, next week we will talk again.
You do the same. Thank you. Take care now.
Okay, no problem. People, this has been On the Inside here with Steve Williams, right here on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio. So stick with us. We have news coming up at 12. And a whole lot of great reggae music because it's Reggae-matic Wednesday today. Yeah.
Me train. There was always love for you in my soul. Even when my older children, they tried to shame me, setting no rules for the younger ones, bringing such grief and sadness into my household. In the end, they're still my daughters and sons. I will always be there for you, no matter what you do, what